everyone, thanks for taking the time out to check out this video. It's a review of Isola issue number 3. I have the previous issues here, 1 and 2. I just wanted to show them together to show how cool these covers look, in my opinion. They all got the same layout, but they're all different with their color schemes. It's a nice tie-in, in my opinion. But let's get started with this review. The credits are Brendan Fletcher and Carl Kershaw, I'm sorry. Carl Kershaw also did the art with Masisic, and the letters are by Aditya Bidikar. I hope I didn't mess up those names too bad. I apologize if I did. We're starting off with this issue number 3, and here's a nice little nightmare scene. This is the queen in her human form. She's waking up. You know, she's thanking the gods that she's no longer in the tiger form. This is her tiger form right here. She gets transformed into a tiger. They haven't explained how or why yet, but obviously I would think they do that in future issues. But this is Rook, the soldier who's been escorting her up into this point to a place called Isola. This fox that you see here is like a spirit that's been in all the issues, and there's got to be some level of importance with this fox, but it hasn't been shown what it is yet. I'm not going to show every page, but I would like to point out the pages where you can see the different characters. This is Ping. At the end of the previous issue, Rook was escorting the queen. The queen's name is Alwyn. The queen was exhausted at a point in the previous issue, so Rook left her in a safe spot while she went to get more supplies. Ping's been in both issue 1 and 2, but at that point in issue 2, when the queen was alone, Ping comes along, and I hope, the way I read it, I believe his name is Ping, but this character comes along and convinces the queen to go his way to a place called Moro, because Isola is not worth it, is the way I took it. It doesn't exist. It's not worth the journey, and that Rook can find her own journey in life, her own way. So the queen goes with this character. When they got separated in the previous issue, Rook here, you can see her better here, with the exception of this glare. This glare is pretty horrible. I apologize for that, but when they get separated, she is momentarily captured, or has an encounter with this clan that ends up capturing her. Later in this issue, they get separated, and Rook goes on her way to try to catch up with the queen. Again, she doesn't know where the queen is, but she's following like tracks and things like that to see if she can basically reconnect with the queen and go about their journey. She doesn't really know where the queen is. She doesn't know that she's being escorted to Moro or anything like that. At one point, the clan, when they still have Rook in their custody, so to speak, decide to use her to help track down the tiger, because they're also looking for the tiger, whether or not it's the queen. They don't know for sure if it's the queen, but they do have their suspicions. But they want the tiger either way because they feel it'll be valuable. During this pursuit, that's when they get separated, and Rook tries to catch up with the queen. At one point, Rook comes across these mysterious creatures, figures, and that ends up leading to their reunion, or her reunion with the queen. But before I get into that, this page, I really like this page. It shows, even though the character is a tiger, the artist does a good job at capturing the emotion, the importance of the situation through this tiger. The tiger looks so worried because as she's making her way through Moro, all these people that live there or are part of this area like want to get up close to her, Not to do anything mean to her, but to get blessings according to this character here. There's another couple pages, these two, which I just think are really well illustrated. She wakes up after her encounter with those strange creatures because she gets like knocked out, and Pink kind of rescues her. It looks like she wakes up, and this is when she's reunited with the queen, which I'll skip to this page here. But when she sees the queen, she's got like her human body, but the head is still a tiger. So obviously, those creatures that she had a run-in with have had a similar fate. As you can see here, they've got the human body and an animal head. Of course, none of us know why at this point. The characters don't know why. I don't know why. I'm gonna skip to the last 2 pages, which is a preview of the next issue. This is probably the brother of the queen. This is the queen. These 2 stories look like they have this. I'm sorry, these 2 pages look like they have some sort of encounter. And look, here's the fox again. And this encounter possibly leads to her turning into this tiger. It's pretty obvious, but again, it's a bit of a cliffhanger, which is great. I like this book a lot. The story originally caught my attention because it's fantasy based. I find myself gravitating more towards fantasy or sci-fantasy lately. I still read things from DC like Batman, Flash, those traditional characters, but I like to try to find other things that are different or fantasy based like this. So I would recommend this if you like fantasy. It's a pretty good book. The rating is T for teen. Again, I don't know if you pay attention to ratings, but if that is important to you, it is rated T for teen. T plus, I should say. We're 3 issues in, and I still don't know why or how she got turned to the tiger, but like I point out, it looks like that's going to be addressed in the next issue. I hope it is, because this 3 issues has been basically a journey of, I think, a handful of days. A lot's happened in those couple of days, but to me, like, nothing terribly significant, with the exception of a couple of flashbacks or revelations of past times. Like in issue 2, there was a revelation of how Rook's mother passed away. Revelation, I believe, of what Rook did. But as far as the present timeline, there hasn't really been much going on except going from point A to point B. Again, you know, there is some good stories as far as those revelations, but hopefully issue 4 picks up with like the actual details as far as the transformation of the queen, maybe more backstory between her relationship with Rook. I think it will, you know. I'm pretty patient. I just hope it doesn't drag on a long time. The art's great. The art's very suited to the fantasy story. It kind of gave me a little Battle Chasers vibe, which is great because I love Battle Chasers. But yeah, if you like fantasy, I think this is worth picking up. The only thing I didn't like is that I still have questions, and I hope those get answered in issue 4, like I mentioned, of the Queen's transformation and whatnot. The only other problem I have, and this isn't story related, is the price. I mentioned before in the previous review, Image books are a little more higher than regular comics like from DC, which are like $2.99. DC's books sometimes go $3.99 or even $4.99 depending on if it's a special or something like that. And Marvel as well. $3.99, like I mentioned before, is the top of my what I'm willing to pay for a comic on a monthly basis. But that might come into play if I get the feeling this is being drug out. I hope not, because I really like this concept of a fantasy book, and one of the main characters is transformed into a beast and nobody knows why yet. But again, I hope that doesn't get drug out to the point where it's like 6 issues or even worse, 12. But it's part of story building, so maybe that's asking too much. I don't know, but I would recommend, if you're into fantasy books, maybe this arc. I'm not sure if this arc's gonna wrap up at issue 4. Usually the arcs are like 4 or 6 issues long, so if you're willing to wait, you might want to pick up the trade paperback if they are gonna release one. I don't know that yet, but usually that's what happens for the most part, because again, I don't know if you'll be able to find these yet. I don't know if they're sold out. If they're not, it might be worth picking up. But again, for 3 comics, it would cost like $12 plus tax. So that might be steep for a lot of people. I know for me, it's definitely concerning to pay all at once. But you can certainly pick up issue 3 and not feel completely lost. But I would only pick this up if it's fantasy's your thing. If not, then it may not be worth it. I think the art's good. I think the story's good. But for me, I'm already getting pretty antsy, like wanting to know what's going on with this queen being transformed into a tiger. But anyway, thanks for watching this video, and please support your local comic book shops. I'll try to keep my rambling to a minimum. I realize I rambled there at the end, but again, support your local comic book shops, and thank you for watching.